Hey, baby, I hear those blues a calling. It's time for the Frasier on Frasier podcast. Hello, welcome. I'm your host, Adam Frazier, and with me is Wes Corwin. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, sir. Yes, Wes Corwin. That's right.
So we're talking about season 1, episode 7 of Frasier. Call Me Irresponsible.
Call Me Irresponsible, the 7th episode of Frasier, total.
And this is kind of an interesting episode. It deals with an ethical dilemma that Frasier faces when he starts dating one of his caller's ex-girlfriends.
And I feel like this is the first time in the past 5 episodes, with the exception of the pilot, it feels like this is the first time that Frasier is presented with a choice. Usually it feels like some situations are thrust upon him and he kind of has to deal with it. This is the first time he's given a very open field to play in, and he kind of ends up making decisions that we'll get into. But it was an interest. We really got to see Frasier Crane bend and eventually revert to normal in terms of his moral compass.
Yep. Yeah. So let's get into it. We open with Frasier sitting in his booth doing his radio show. Mm-hmm. He's got a caller by the name of Hank who calls in, who is voiced by the legendary Eddie Van Halen.
Famous guitarist Eddie Van Halen from the band Van Halen. And I believe the namesake of the dog, Eddie, from Frasier.
Right. Yes. And they got him to do this, they got him to do 2 lines, and then Frasier hangs up on him.
Frasier is like, can you hear me? And then the guy goes, am I on? And then Frasier goes, turn off your radio. And then he's like, am I on? And yeah. He couldn't do it, and then that was it. And I hope people that were tuning into the last episode and that little bit at the end where we were like, check it out because Eddie Van Halen's. Hope you have enjoyed this part of the show that had Eddie Van Halen, because that is as much as we see of him in the episode.
So they hang up. They get a new caller by the name of Marco, who has a bit of a conundrum. He is thinking of. I think he's wanting to break things off with his girlfriend.
Yes, he is played by Bruno Kirby from Godfather Part 2, and also Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah, he sounds kind of like a Joe Pesci type.
He sounds a little bit like a Joe Pesci type. Yeah.
So he's calling in. He's got his girlfriend and him. They've been seeing each other for some time, and she keeps pressing him for a commitment, which he is quite ready for. He is wanting to leave his options open in case something better comes along.
He wants to play the field. He wants to leave the field open so he can play in this field of women, and this deeply offends Frasier at his moral core, is this idea of somebody that might be dating someone and also be interested in what could be going on the outside. He's like, if you're in a relationship, you should be taking it seriously. Only reason to be in a relationship is to try to find the one. He not only does he go off on, he tells Marco to break up and then hangs up the phone and then goes on an additional 2-minute tirade on Marco's and their place in the world and how awful, and then ropes Roz into the conversation to also dunk on Marco's. He has to offend many members of the Marco community. Which is a big part of any radio listener base in 1993. So it's a real risk Frasier takes, dunking on all these Marcos.
Well, yeah, and Roz says they're all Marcos.
All of them are. The future is Marcos. She has seen the future, and its name is Marco.
Roz, as we know, not always lucky when it comes to love.
It's interesting that Roz can see the future. First of all, we're establishing Roz is the second character that can see the future besides Daphne. And she foresees that the future is Marco, but doesn't see fit to mention to Frasier that radio is going to be dead. So selective, maybe, just like Daphne, where she can't see the whole future.
So, yeah. So we get to Frasier's apartment. Martin and Daphne are there. Frasier's in the other room having a nap. And Martin and Daphne are celebrating Christmas a little bit early.
They establish it as October 21st, and Daphne wants to set up for a Christmas card so they can send it out as a family. She also picks a theme for this year's Christmas card, which is interesting because this is her first year with the Frazier family, and they just kind of blow over, like, is this something Daphne does at every household she provides in-home nurse care for? Is she sets up and decides a theme on their Christmas card? Does she maintain and curate Christmas cards for families she used to be at? Is this just something... Why is Christmas so special she needs to take it? This is something we blow over, but I'm sure, and I can't speak to it, but I'm sure it'll come up in future Frasier episodes, where Daphne's Christmas origins come from.
Well, it does get touched on briefly. Daphne describes sort of a very morbid event in her childhood where her grandfather died while he was napping, and for days her Grammy kept insisting that he was asleep when in fact he was dead, lying there. Really, really morbid stuff. And this is, I think probably one of the first instances where we get a glimpse into Daphne's, life before she, moved to America.
Although I believe this is the second time she's gone into a morbid aside to, with very little prompting. The first time being the previous episode when, as a dinner party goof, she started telling people what she thought death was like. Which is a very interesting thing to do at a party. So not exactly a memory, but just sort of a hint that deep down Daphne has a very morbid, dark sense of the world.
And it probably comes from her upbringing. We'll get into this in later episodes, of course, but she from the way that she's described her childhood, it wasn't necessarily very happy, although she had a very positive outlook on it. And I think more than anything, getting to, her staging the Christmas photo and everything, at the core of Daphne's character, I think the main thing she really wants is to be part of a family.
Yes. That makes sense.
Something that they explicitly tell us in later episodes. But yeah, that's something about Daphne that we're kind of beginning to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they set up this family photo. Frazier comes in, he sees them, singing Christmas carols, and they've got Christmas outfits on, and there's a tree up, and he's like, "How long have I been asleep?" Because he's been asleep.
He's been asleep, and yes. Wait, I just got it. Oh, that's good. He thought he was yes.
That's comedy.
That's comedy. Wow, because he thought it was October 21st, and then he wakes up and there's a bunch of Christmas. Wow, now that's comedy. That's really good.
So
do you think
Christmas?
Do you think they wrote that? Do you think they planned that out for the show?
I think that was all improv.
I think I agree. I think I think Kelsey Grammer took a nap on set. I think Kelsey Grammer sleeps on set, and I think they woke him up in between scenes. And I don't think I think these transcripts come after the fact. I don't think Frazier scripted. I'm pretty sure. It's all improv.
Kelsey Grammer lived in the apartment in Frazier.
I think that's what I've heard. I've heard that. So we go into the studio. Next scene. It's the next day. Frazier's
that scene. The episode.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I'm sorry. Frazier is in the studio. He's wrapping another day of radio, and Roz mentions, "Hey, there's a fan that would like your autograph," and he looks outside and he sees a fan, a very attractive woman, and he gets very excited. And he's like at first it seems like he's going to sign it and hand it back, and then he's like, "Ooh, a cute fan," which is a little pre-Me Too, but he decides to go out and ask, like, so who do I make this out to? And she says, you disgust me, you parasitic fraud, which is very aggressive. And it is revealed that this is Catherine, the woman that was previously the partner of Marco, the person who called in yesterday that Frazier told, hey, you should break up. And they have a bit of a spat. Frazier reveals what Marco did not, that Marco had been keeping her while pursuing stuff on the side, that he wasn't really into taking their relationship seriously. And with that information, she becomes very distraught and starts crying, and he goes to put a manila folder over his microphone to prevent it from infection, which is very post-corona, but pre-corona, and that's very wise. I appreciate that. I think, and then Frazier offers to get her peanut M&Ms, and he goes out and he gets peanut M&Ms out of the vending machine, and they sit down and they start talking and they start relating to it. It is a very fun dynamic that they have back and forth. They start first.
Chemistry.
They have a good.
You can tell.
It's a very good bit. It's a very good two-person scene because it travels the gamut from, like, at first Frazier is comforting her, and then over the course of the conversation, you can see that they start to mimic each other's mannerisms and they start to relate over silly little things. And before you know it, the scene ends with her taking Frazier's hand and eating an M&M out of it to insinuate that she is interested. And then he eats a whole bunch of M&Ms because he likes M&Ms. I think that's what that meant.
I wonder how much the M&Ms paid them for that little.
I mean, I have to imagine if you want to get in on episode. I imagine at this point is this the first time they've had like a real brand in Frasier? Because they do goof stuff like the Lumber Mill and Cafe Nervosa, which isn't real, and they name restaurants that are based on other restaurants, but they don't name. Is this
There's
like
a place called Pizza?
Is there a place called Pizza, Seattle? Not a thing.
That's a fake place, but I think that was in one of the previous episodes.
They did mention a place called Pizza.
So yeah, I think this is probably some of the first. Well, if you don't count, I mean, the Eames chair and like all the other furniture in Frazier's apartment, sure.
Yep.
So yeah, they've got some chemistry. They start seeing each other. We skip to, I think, a couple days later in Cafe Nervosa, and Catherine is giving Frazier a palm reading.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's looking and insinuating parts of his personality based on his hands. And at first you think that Frazier is looking at her and admiring her hands. Soft and supple, yet strong right down to the very beautiful almond-shaped nails. And then it is revealed that Catherine has said these things about Frazier's hands, which is
How many damn psychics are we going to get in this television show?
How many what?
I mean, if it's palm reading, that's a psychic thing, right?
That is a psychic. This is the third psychic within the same episode now. There's a lot of... I don't know if you... There's a large psychic realm within the Frasier universe. I haven't looked very far into it, but it does seem like the show is very comfortable establishing that there are many people with powers, and that's good. That's solid.
Yeah, there's a lot of episodes. I mean, yeah, it gets into the occult.
Yeah, eventually, Frasier does start busting ghosts, which is
that would be great. I would love to see.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's going to happen.
I would love to see Frasier giving ghosts psychiatric advice.
Yeah.
That would be a fantastic spinoff. That would be a fantastic... Just do that as an episode.
Just do that as a one-off, is have Frasier talking ghosts down. Like, one of those things you have to talk somebody down, like off of a ledge, but it's revealed... Like, it's a scene, and Frasier's talking to somebody standing on a ledge, and instead of, like... coming back down, stepping off, they just float back down, and it's revealed he was talking a ghost down. Ghost Frasier. That's what the show is right there. That's genius.
Cut to title.
Cut to title. Title card. Frazier. And it's Seattle, but it's got the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on top, and I think that'd be good. I think that'd be really good.
Hey, baby, I hear those ghosts calling.
That's really good.
Niles arrives.
They have a long makeout session, and then Niles, instead of like, oh hey, I'm not, like, lets her walk by, gets a good like gawk at her face, and then walks in calling her a Babatron. Let me find it in the Baborama.
He's trying to be hip.
He's trying to be hip, to which Frazier replies, Niles, please don't try to be hip. You remind me of Bob Hope when he dresses up as the Fonz, which I Googled that, and I can't find what Frazier is talking about. Is that a thing that happened?
I mean, the first result I see is a image from this episode.
Right.
So it might not be. I don't know. You need to ask.
Wait. Oh, okay. Wait, no, I found something. There's a 1982 press photo where Brooke Shields and Bob Hope are like, we're going on the road to do comedy for the troops. And Bob Hope is dressed like the Fonz, but he looks very old. I guess that's that. What an odd reference to a thing that I had to look very hard to find. I have spent, from the time we watched the episode to this point in the podcast, so about 30 minutes furiously Googling, trying to find a picture of Bob Hope as the Fonz, and I found it live while we were talking just now. So it was very hard to find. So go on.
So Niles starts asking Frazier about this new relationship that he's in. Frazier lets it slip that she is the ex-girlfriend of one of the callers that called into his radio show, and he advised him to break up with her. So now they're dating, which of course Niles, Niles has a very funny reaction to that. I think he does a spit take.
He does like a spit, like sugar goes fly. Everything goes everywhere, and he's like breaking open a sugar packet to put in his drink, and then sugar goes everywhere because he jerks his hand around. And Niles and so we've established that Niles kind of looks down on Frazier for being a pop psychiatrist, and but we haven't established this because they're both psychiatrists. Niles being in I think a private practice situation, and Frazier having a radio show. And not for the first time we kind of see the difference in their spheres, because Niles is like, that's a patient, like that's you can't get involved with the lives of your patients. And Frazier said, he's not my he just called into my radio show. Like, I'm a psychiatrist, but like it's a different, like, people call in. It's a public forum. I'm not beholden to these people. And then they talk over each other. Niles accuses Frazier of rationalizing, and Frazier won't tolerate it. And Frazier eventually says that I don't need your approval. I don't need you to like it, and I don't need you for anything. By the way, my car's in the shop. I need you to give me a ride home. And Niles says no problem. And that's the end of that bit. And that's fun. Go on.
We move on, and Frazier, I guess this is later on, I don't know, was there just like a commercial break and Frazier decided to sneak down to Cafe Nervosa or something?
I get, maybe he doesn't, like, as a radio show, maybe they have like smooth jazz for the lunch hour so Frazier can eat. I don't know how radio works. I don't know.
Or maybe this just took place before the entire show happened. In any case, Frazier gets back to the office. Roz informs him that Marco, the boyfriend, is on the line and wants to speak to Frazier. Frazier doesn't want to speak with Marco. Roz puts him through anyway, because Roz is her own woman and she puts on the calls that she wants to listen to.
It's fun for her, and it might also play into the first act in the opening scene where Frazier used Roz as an example of, like, is Roz right? Are there too many Marcos in the world? Or Marco's the future, and is Roz doomed to die in spinsterdom? To which she said, "I'm so glad," with a heavy veil of sarcasm. I'm so glad whenever you include me in the show. So it might be possible. It could just be that she wants to watch the world burn, or she wants to get back a little bit at Frasier for poking at her during his. Now she gets to use her power as the producer of the show to poke back at him. So yeah, Marco's on line 2. Frasier's like, who do we have on line 3? And she's like, Todd. Whoops, lost him, but Marco's on line 2. And Frasier gets on the line with Marco, who it turns out is kind of a weirdo, a little bit of a creep. Is
having some second thoughts, is he?
Well, that's one way to put it. So that's how the episode presents it. Is we never really spend that much time thinking about Marco, who since the first call has broken up with Catherine, and then I guess the next day tries to call her to like hang out, or like maybe he had a hard time scoring a date and was like, well, I'll call her and maybe we can hang out or hook up or whatever. And then it is revealed that he couldn't get a hold of her. So of course, since he couldn't get a hold of her, he decides to drive by her house and discovers her saying goodbye to another gentleman caller, as you used to say back in 1993.
Who we know is Frazier.
Who we know is Frazier. Everybody but Marco just like everybody but Catherine knew who Marco knew that Marco wasn't into her. Everybody but Marco knows that Catherine is dating Frazier.
So Frazier and Marco kind of exchange words. Marco is, after seeing Catherine with another man, he's starting to have second thoughts, thinking maybe he made a mistake breaking up with her. Frazier interjects saying that, he's just, it's just jealousy. She can't stand the thought of her being with another man. But again, that doesn't change the fact that, when they were together, all he could really think about was, what if someone else better comes along? Mm-hmm. So he basically brushes Marco off, saying that, he needs to, get on with his life, forget about his ex-girlfriend, and move to Pittsburgh.
Move straight to Pittsburgh. Now, we never hear from Marco again, which leads me to believe he went to Pittsburgh.
Right. I came to that same conclusion.
Good.
So later, Niles picks up Frazier from the radio station, as we established in the previous scene that he was going to do. Niles talks to Frazier. He was listening. During that whole exchange with Marco, we were cutting to Niles in his car reacting to the stuff that Frazier was telling Marco, specifically about how he should move on with his life and let Frazier continue to date his ex-girlfriend.
So Frazier gets we skipped one bit, and I do want to point it out, because previously Frazier was able to very easily dismiss, we have different relationships with our clients. People pay you, I have an open for, and Niles points out the ethical code of a psychiatrist is to provide the best possible advice on the interests of your client. And Niles point blank asks Frazier, do you think the advice you gave Marco was based on his best interest and not your own? And Frazier reveals that he doesn't care, which leads to the question of ethics, and that's when they start comparing the terrible things they leak out of their bodies when they commit ethics violations.
And for Niles, it's revealed that it's a noticeable. Whenever he's in breach of his ethics, he will bleed vigorously from the nose. Yeah. Which is something that I believe does come up later.
In fact, it comes up this moment because Niles is like, Niles, is this a new car? And he reveals that a patient of his got him a very good discount on a lease, and then he immediately touches his nose and reveals he needs to start doing some dabbing. Keep the nose blood in the nose.
They also recall an anecdote where when as children, Frazier and Niles, they stole a $1 bill from their mother.
Right.
And they left quite the grisly trail leading back to their treehouse that day.
Just a nightmarish trail of blood and puke. It just horrifying. It looked a lot like another scene from Ghostbusters when all the goo is on the ground.
I would also love a spin-off series where just with Frasier and Niles as children. Call it Young Frasier.
Young, yeah. Honestly, and here you can quote me on this, anyone listening, or Adam. I would prefer young Frasier to young Sheldon every day of the week, every conceivable day. I would watch the Young Adventures of Frasier any day, every day.
I would, and they should make it animated like Muppet Babies.
I would. Oh man, yes. If they made like. And Niles' mouth just moves up and down like Kermit the Frog, and his arms shake.
And it can just be the entire Frasier cast as babies.
Yep.
And like Martin's there, but you only see like his legs. You don't ever see like the top half of him.
You never see the top half of Martin. You never see his top half. Even though we've established that he has a top half, you never see the top half.
So there's the scene with Frasier and Niles, and then we get to the obligatory sex scene.
Right.
Which is the title card. That's not really a fair description of the scene in question. Yes, no. There is some hot and heavy moments, but I don't think there's never any sex.
No.
Because this is a family show.
We get pretty close, but
yeah,
we don't quite get there.
So it's Frasier. He's having Catherine over to his apartment for a nice romantic dinner. They've just finished eating some delicious salmon that Frasier cooked.
Salmon Marseille.
Yes. And Catherine rather casually asks him if he's ever made love in a kitchen.
To which he smashes a plate in the sink. He is giddily in love with Catherine. I don't want to skip over this. And I only see it now because of the transcript. I didn't understand the wordplay, and I was like, maybe I missed it. It's just because it's very awful. She says that was the most delicious salmon Marseille I've ever tasted, and then Frasier said, well, you should try my salmon chanted evening, which I guess is supposed to be a play on words on like enchanted. I don't know what it's supposed to mean, but I hate it. I hate it. And Catherine is like, tell me you didn't just say that, and he said, no, it was just the Lafitte talking. Lafitte, don't fail me now. Which I guess is a wine, probably, if I had to...
Or you got dad jokes.
Yeah, he's doing some dad jokes. He is, in fact, a dad. He's a father. So, yes. As Catherine asks if you made love in the kitchen, and they get very excited. Here's the interest. Usually, they have, like, a very... Like, if you watch people make out on Full House... They'll do like one kiss, and then they'll go like, oh, and they'll both blush, because Full House exists in a world that doesn't have sexual intercourse. This is right. They're aliens that like procreate by kissing, and they don't have they're like Barbie and Ken dolls. This, in an interesting divert from other sitcoms, they ask, hey, have you ever made love in a kitchen? And then they kind of drop right there, and I can't speak for the moment, but it feels like they were expecting, or like they set up a beat for the audience to go like, woo, woo, like the Full House, like, ooh. And the audience was so like, whoa, that they didn't make a sound. There was just like a sort of a hubbub, that like an amused chuckle, which was very fun. I don't know if Frasier is actually, it's one of those things is like, because sometimes they pipe in audio and sometimes it's actually recorded in front of a live audience. But it seemed very organic in the moment, and that's cool. But then Frasier starts to make sounds. How did you describe the sounds Frasier was making?
Jerry Lewis sounds.
Jerry Lewis sounds, almost exactly. Ooh. And then Catherine is like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, oh, maybe I'm not a kitchen person. So they go to start to get physical in the living room area, and they end up on Martin's chair, to which it starts to vibrate. To which Frasier asks if they can move to the sofa because he doesn't want to be outperformed by a Barca lounger. And then in a surprising something that shows both Frasier's strength and like he just picks up Catherine, whose legs are completely off the ground, and moves her to the sofa. And I was like, no, that's impressive. And then Frasier gets on top of Catherine again. Oh, no. They actually end up with Frasier on the sofa and Catherine on top of him, and they start to get physical again. And then he once again makes some Jerry Lewis, and Catherine is confused and asks if she was kneeling, if she was like hurting him or choking him, by kneeling on him. And Frazier's like, I need to get fresh air. He tries to go outside, and it's raining. Isn't that just how it goes?
We know Frazier is feeling queasy because of the previous scene where they discuss his stomach trouble when he's ever in breach of his ethics, right. And this is what brings it out.
Right.
This romantic encounter with Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly wonder, because Frazier seemed so on the ball before this, I wonder if this is like a psychological thing. Had Niles not even brought that up, maybe things would have gone differently.
Maybe he never would have been sick again if Niles hadn't pointed it out. Darn. But I mean, it is definitely. Regardless, it's a good point, and maybe not. Maybe it's one of those false implanted, because Frasier had to be reminded of it. I think is important. It's one of those sitcom things where these characters that both know what they're talking about, one of them has to go like, "Remember this thing that we both have 100% clear memory of." Maybe Frasier didn't get sick with it, kids, but the thought of getting sick at an ethical breach made him sick in the moment. Is how I think this scene played out. I think Niles has a lot more power over his brother than we're led to believe in the previous episodes.
So Frazier does his best to explain to Catherine his dilemma, the fact that he feels sick at the thought of making love to her.
Don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally. It's because of my ethics. Mm-hmm. I feel like I violated my ethics by getting involved with the ex-girlfriend of one of my callers. To which Catherine doesn't seem to really care about this. She seems I think she is flat out that she doesn't care that,
not only
told Marco not to continue seeing her.
Not only does she not care, but she insinuates who cares, as if no one on Earth would care, not even all the Marcos would care. But Frazier insists with his moral fiber, he's like, I care. Before, we've established in two scenes, the scene where Frazier and Niles are in the car together and the scene where Frazier and Niles are in Cafe Nervosa. He said, I don't care for your opinion. I don't care about this ethics thing. He reveals that all along he did care. Any psychiatrist worth his salt would care. That's why we don't get involved with their patients or their girlfriends.
And Catherine, of course, she takes this very hard. She's already been broken up with by Marco. Now Frazier's breaking up with her, the man who she left for Marco.
Mm-hmm.
Or that she left Marco for. And she starts, really going off on it. Really, twisting the knife.
Mm-hmm.
As the transcript
doing
says.
Some knife twisting. Doing some old knife twisting.
Talks about how she was going to have really hot sex with him, sweat dripping down your back, neighbors pounding on the wall, illegal in 48 states kind of sex.
Now, I won't reveal my sources, but I did ask in the moment, like, what kind of sex is illegal in 48 states? And I have an expert on around me that revealed animal stuff. It is animal stuff. Anyway, so
I'm really afraid for Eddie.
Oh no, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, fortunately, she leaves, and hopefully, because the sex wasn't practiced, Eddie is still sanct. He's still intact. And
can we just talk for a second to how goddamn hairy Kelsey Grammer's chest is?
Kelsey Grammer
Austin Powers, how like when he takes off his shirt, it's just like a shag carpet.
Adam, before we continue, I want to make it perfectly clear that Frasier on Frasier is not a podcast designed to body shame anyone, Kelsey Grammer or otherwise. But I would like to point out that Kelsey Grammer does seem to achieve the effect of an Austin Powers cosplay without having to put any effort into the chest hair. It was very impressive.
I'm glad it wasn't a full moon, or else he probably would have turned into water.
That's a great, yeah. I'm sure that'll come up canonically. I'm sure that's a real problem he has to do with the ebb and the wane of the full moon.
So Catherine leaves. She insults Frasier's fish.
Yes, it was
which is
dry.
just the cherry on top.
Which I think, not to get too deep into the scene, but I feel like that's if there's a definitive reveal, canonically we know Frazier makes some great fish. So I feel like that demonstrates she's saying these things out of hurt. I don't know if she'll come back later, but hopefully they can reconcile their feelings. Maybe after the episode, maybe we don't see it on the screen. Hopefully she calls and says, hey, by the way, the fish was delicious. It was good. Because I feel like, maybe that would be nice. To which Frazier begins talking to Eddie, and it's because before this point, every instance he's interacted with Eddie has been one of being infuriated. He doesn't really like this dog because this dog looks at him and judges him. And then Eddie comes to sort of comfort him on the Eames chair, and Eddie and Frazier says the biggest questions Eddie has to face is who's going to walk me, who's going to feed me, and he won't know that kind of joy for another 40 years when he's very old.
And that joke is... That is the joke that is worthy of ending the episode.
That sort of wraps things up. That puts a button on the whole deal.
Yeah. So that's the episode. That's Frasier episode 7. It's, I mean, again, very very straightforward episode, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it was interesting. It was fun to see Frasier pursue a relationship. Of course, we will see Frasier in many more relationships to come. Mm-hmm. But this is the first we've seen so far in this series, and it is, I think it gives us a taste of what's to come.
Mm.
Any particular favorite moments, Wes?
It's tough. So here's the thing. I feel like previous episodes had more jokes per minute and had a lot of funnier...
Pretty light on jokes, I think.
This one was like, so the Crucible was a moral thing. Like it challenged Frasier as a character, but it was also a very funny episode. This really did sort of present like a few days in the life of Frasier, watching him sort of go through a relationship that he was very into, couldn't get over for an ethical reason, and it really presents it in a very straightforward, like, the people around, his loved ones that know about his profession, like Niles, present that challenge to him. It was great to see any of the interactions between Frasier and Niles. The best I think I could compare it to is perhaps the conversations between maybe Obi-Wan and Anakin about the ethics in the Force. I feel like look, we've pitched a show where Niles and Frasier are Ghostbusters, and one where Frasier and Niles are babies. I think if you were to make Star Wars: The Clone Wars and find parts for Kelsey Grammer and David Hyde Pierce and have them as wise talking Jedi that are very first of all, David Hyde Pierce already talks like Alec Guinness, so that's such an easy move to make, and I don't know why you wouldn't make that choice. But basically, here's what I pictured. I'd like to rephrase my pitch. Forget the pitch. Starting over pitch. Pitch starts now. What if you made a series with Ian McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay? Just him solving some crimes in between episodes 3 and 4. Stick with me. He has an angel and a devil on his shoulder. The devil is played by Kelsey Grammer, and the angel is played by David Hyde Pierce.
I would watch that.
Thank you. I'm going to write the spec script tonight. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you have any favorite, any highlight bits?
You know, there is one thing that I want to talk about. So there's that scene where Daphne and Martin are setting up the Christmas photo. They have all got hats on, and they're trying to get Frasier to wear a hat.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to wear a hat because it's Frasier.
Yeah.
And Martin says, "But if you don't do it, we'll all look stupid."
That was
Martin's wearing this ridiculous hat. I don't know. I just like the delivery on that line more than anything.
Martin nailed John Maroney nailed that line. I also really like. I was if there was. I feel like maybe the Christmas card bit, since it doesn't come up later in the episode. Really, it was to add a little bit of laughter to an otherwise very moral episode, because that entire scene was very funny, including the. Immediately after that, the Daphne, as Martin and Frazier are starting to get into it, Daphne goes, "Boys, please don't fight. Aren't you forgetting what day it is?" And Frazier goes, "It's October 21st," which is very funny. It's a solid scene, probably one of the funnier scenes we've seen in an otherwise more serious toned episode.
So, our next episode, episode 8. Beloved Infidel.
Beloved Infidel.
After seeing an emotional meeting between Martin and an old family friend, Frazier and Niles begin to suspect their father of having an affair when they were boys.
Oh man, we're getting into some heavy stuff. It
sounds like we're getting into some of the heavier episodes. So this will definitely, it'll be interesting to see how Frazier and Niles face this dilemma together. So we will talk about that next time. In the meantime, I want to thank you, Wes, for joining me. I want to thank everyone for listening.
Absolutely. It was so fun being on your podcast, Adam. Frazier, am I saying that right? Am I saying
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to check.
Phonetically, it sounds the same as the thing we've been talking about.
Oh.
Anyway.
I didn't... Oh, that's why it's... Oh, that now the podcast name makes sense. Okay.
Yes, it does. All right. Well, thank you again for listening. Good night, everybody.
All right.